Okay, so we had a look at how we can sample our own drum fills from songs, disco songs, and that kind of thing. But what if you want to make your own? What if you want a little bit more control over the sound, and maybe you like making stuff from scratch instead of just grabbing a piece of audio and adding a few effects to it. So in this video, we'll be looking at how we can create our own drum fills with samples, with one-hit samples. Here's an example of what we'll be making. So let's play this quickly. So we won't be making this because these are just loops. If you're interested in the packets, prime loops, main room drums, I've done a review on them, which I'll leave a link to. But we're going to be making this fill here. Oops. Pretty nice. You can probably tell it's made on a computer. Doesn't sound too human-like, but at the same time, it works well with the song. So, it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. First thing we're going to do is make a basic pattern. So, I'm just going to delete this and use an empty one. I'm going to make a 2-beat pattern here. I don't want it to be a long drum fill. So 2 beats, half a bar. We just go in here, and I've got a few samples that are already set up. I'll leave a download link to these 4 samples so you can follow along. 2 toms and 2 snares. I'll just play through them. So the first thing I'm going to do is set up the toms. I don't want it to be a prominent feature exactly. I don't want it to be hitting too much. So I'm going to have tom 1 on the first beat, and then I'll have maybe tom 2, which is a lower tom, over here. So generally you want the higher toms first. Sounds more natural. As a drummer, it sort of flows better. Now we'll look at the snare 1. So I'm going to put this in a couple of places because I want it to roll. I want it to sound like the drummer's doing a bit of a roll on the snare. So at the moment we've got this here. Just solo this. Pretty boring, pretty, straight and lifeless, you could say. I'm going to add snare 2 in here. Gives it a bit more, an added touch, different dynamic. And again, 2-beat fill, so it's not huge. So it's not long, I mean. Next thing I'm going to do is add some groove. So at the moment it's very straight. I'm going to pull these over a little bit and just sort of dequantize it, because having everything on the grid sort of sounds it gets a bit boring after a while. So I'm just going to pull these over a little bit. You won't be able to notice the difference that much. Okay, cool. Next thing we're going to do is work on this first snare here to make it sound like it rolls a little more. So I'm going to add in an extra snare here and probably here, so they can roll. At the moment it doesn't sound nice, it sounds like a machine gun, but we're going to pull the velocity down so it travels in an upwards motion, like this. But we want this snare over here significantly higher, so we don't want this to go too high, otherwise it will lose the sort of comparison and dynamics. So we'll see how this sounds. I might turn this one down a little bit. Okay, cool. So that sounds pretty good at the moment. We're getting there, but we still need to make it sound a little bit more human, bit more interesting. So we're going to go and pan some of these samples. The first one is the snare 1, which is our roll snare, and I'm going to pan this to the left, probably about 17, 18. I'm going to pan snare 2 to the right, so maybe 14 to the right. Tom 1 can go 14 to the left, 13, whatever, and tom 2, 11 to the right. So now we've got this. Sounds more interesting, sounds, I don't know, maybe more human, I'm not too sure, but it's just good to do. Now I'm going to add some reverb just to make it sound like it's being played in a room. I'm going to add this to snare 2, quite a long one, maybe about 3 seconds or around that, and not too much high end. I'm going to high cut it a little bit and also turn the dry wet down. So we've got this here. And finally, I'm going to copy this reverb over to snare 1 and turn the decay time down quite a lot, maybe to about 600-ish seconds. So we get that nice acoustic sound, which works really well if we play it with the loops. Now there's one more thing you can add if you want to. Depending on your song, it may work or it might not, and that is overdrive. Now you might be wondering, Sam, why on earth would you add overdrive? But it makes it sound really nice, really dirty, makes it fit with this song here, or these loops here, which are kind of dirty and dark and deep as well. So obviously I wouldn't leave it stock like that. If we listen to it stock, it sounds really bad. You don't want that in your song. But what I'm going to do is turn this overdrive, cut the low out. We want it affecting the high end only. I'm going to turn the drive down quite a bit. And the dynamics, dry wet down to about 20%. So it sounds like this. And it just adds a nice touch to the high end. Makes it sound more authentic, makes it fit well with the song. So our final product sounds like this. Pretty straightforward. Try it out yourself. Try different patterns as well. You might want to only use the snare or something like that. Try different samples, try different effects. Have a bit of fun and report back with your results.